And we're a spiritualist church. Now, what does that mean? We have fun.
She's got it.
It means that we're spiritual. And so they say, but what do you really believe in? And what we believe is that God is infinite. Not that God is a man or a woman, not that God is spirit, not that God is all of these things that many of us are. How many of you grew up in a strict religious training? And didn't you have in your mind what God looked like? Either God was an old man, or Jesus was a young man, or a goddess. Some were Native American, and you believed in the Mother Earth or the Father Sky. Many of you have a visual of who God is. Well, here, what we'd like for you to do, to take that and see it as divine source. That divine source is without gender. That divine source is. But if you feel like, I want my God to be male, go with it. If you say, I want my God to be female, go with it. If you say, I had a man once that we were doing spirit guides, and I said, what does your spirit guide look like? And he said, my spirit guide is the most beautiful black widow spider.
Well, I won't be going with you.
Yeah, and it was, and the way he explained the love and the energy from this divine source for him. You know how sometimes you get a little bit tweaked, and I went, isn't that wonderful? We find that source wherever. But realize that in this church, whatever you are feeling is your divine source. We're with you. As long as your divine source is about love. So when you think about that, if you want to become a spiritualist, start reading about different faiths and the spirituality involved and look at them. Because when I was a young girl, I envisioned God as having big hands, because they said God was holding me. And God was a big guy.
Had to be.
Yeah. Big guy. Did I say big guy? Because my father was 6'5" and weighed 400 pounds, and God was bigger than him. So I knew God was huge, you know. And that no matter what happened, that God would be there. And isn't that rewarding when you're a little kid to know that there it is? And then when I got older, I thought, were those male hands or female hands that were holding me? And then I realized it didn't make any difference. That I knew spirit was holding me. And that's what was important, was how I could see spirit. And then finally, when I started looking more into the Native American, I realized that Mother Earth helps support. And all those beautiful beings that I see when I do readings, they all are supporting me. And it dawned on me that all the time I was looking for God to support me, and I wasn't looking inside me for the God that was here, that was supporting source. Because it's a two-way street. Once you realize that you are part of God, you don't have to keep looking outside of yourself for something else. You can find it in here. And once you do that, you stop questioning, why do they believe in that? Why do they? How many of you do that? How many of you wonder, why do the Republicans think the way they do?
Yeah.
Why do the Democrats think the way they do? Why do the Jews? Somebody said, yesterday I was at a picnic, and somebody said, well, I bet you don't have any Jehovah's Witnesses in your congregation. And you know what I said? Oh, wouldn't it be wonderful if we did? You know, it's like, great.
They're welcome.
They're welcome.
They just probably wouldn't like us.
It's not about them and us, it's about you and God. However that is. So as I was on my travels, and I've been around the world, and I'd ask people, what does God look like to you? And I got as many different stories as you can imagine. And I said, what do you look like to God? And that's when they had to stop and become spiritual. Just that energy of what is it that I look like to God? Because when you know that you're inside there, when you know that that part of you as God is inside you, you realize that you have a partnership. You have a partnership going on. You've heard this in every religion. Every religion talks about how you can be a better person. Instead of saying you're already a great person. Because from the time you were born, God was with you, and you were a part of God. So you start looking at it like that. And don't give up on yourself. Do you think God wakes up one morning and says, oh darn, I really goofed. I've got this group down there that I made, and one day I just felt like it. And in my own image, I made a man and a woman. Now that's interesting, isn't it? Okay. And then I stepped back and said, I don't know if I did a right thing. I'll probably pay for this one. I don't think God does that. I don't believe that. I believe that Source says everything is beautiful.
Who's quality controlling God?
His mother.
Junior?
Because you get that feeling that you're going to be so separate. Okay, and you're not. You're all one. And so today I want you to think of that. Think of that God that's in you and how wonderful it is to be a part of it. Well, if God is within you, who's within Christine? God. Who's within Janet and Ruth? God. Now, doesn't that make you feel like that isn't possible? Well, when you step into the ocean, and you're in the ocean, and everybody else is in the ocean, they're all a part of the ocean. The ocean doesn't say, I don't have room for you. It's the same way as Source. Source always has room. Source is always there, and Source always has room. And so I want you to find that God energy in other people, so I'm going to make you work. Don't you love that?
Or
Yes, or play. So what I want you to do, stand up. And find the person closest to you that you don't know real well. It's going to